Welcome to Across the Goal Line, a sports podcast brought to you by diehard fans, and today we bring you the following. We've got the second race of the round of 12 from NASCAR as another driver earned his spot in the round of 8. We also have some wrestling, but not WWE, as we look at two recent pay-per-views from Ring of Honor and TNA respectively. Basketball season is just around the corner, so we'll have the NBA preview for you, seeing who we think will make the playoffs and make a run at that championship. And to close the show, we'll review the previous week for both college football and the NFL while making our picks for this upcoming week that gets started tonight. So let's get things started with some NASCAR, and I'll throw it over to Luke for that. But first, we'll go back to our question of the week from last week. Our poll on Twitter, the votes came in 58% in favor of Dak Prescott staying as the starting quarterback for the Cowboys over Tony Romo. So, I mean, the people are in favor of Dak Prescott right now. We'll have to see what the Cowboys do. So, either way, I'll throw it over to Luke for some NASCAR now.
All right, yeah, NASCAR is at Kansas. Kevin Harvick won. As you said, he's a second driver now into the round of 8. They're at Talladega this week, the last restrictor plate race of the season, and it's also the last race for the round of 12. So you're going to have one more automatic winner, and then there'll be 4 drivers that don't get in. Being the bottom 4, we'll have to see how that plays out, depending on how this race at Talladega goes this weekend. So yeah, Kevin Harvick won, followed by Carl Edwards, Logano, Jimmy Johnson, who's already in the round of 8, and then Kyle Busch. Talladega, restrictor plate track. It's the sister track of Daytona, built in 1969. Johnson's won there before. Harvick's won there before. I think Logano's won there before. It might have been for a nationwide race, but who are you going to pick this week, Corey?
You know what? I'm going to go with Kyle Busch, I think.
Here you go, Kyle Busch. All right, I picked him, 2 weeks ago now, to win at Charlotte whenever Jimmy Johnson had won, and when I should have picked Johnson, but oh well. I said that last week, and then we didn't pick a winner for Kansas because we hopped right into, was it baseball, the second thing we talked about last week, I believe
it was.
So, yeah, we're sorry about that, but we're picking winners this week. He picked Kyle Busch, and, anybody can win it, Talladega. As I said, a lot of these drivers have before. You can go 4 or 5 wide, and then the fun thing about Talladega, too, the start-finish line is not until, it's not in the middle of the track. It's down the front stretch there, going into the first turn. So I'm gonna go with Austin Dillon. I think he'll get into the round of 8, and he's a young driver. I could see Chase Elliott winning this as well. I think somebody in the next generation of drivers in NASCAR is going to win this weekend. But I'm going to pick Austin Dillon, but I wouldn't be surprised if, somebody like Chase Elliott won as well.
All right.
And with that, I'm going to send it back to you because we've got a lot of wrestling to talk about, and then basketball and football, which I'm, always excited to talk about. So, yeah.
Yeah, so let's get into some wrestling. And first time in a while, no WWE on the docket here with that brand split. It's
been a couple months.
It's been almost every week we've had some sort of wrestling predictions or review because of the way the brand split works. But this month, October,
depending on when pay-per-views are.
Yeah, this month we have a long stretch between pay-per-views. So this week, it's too far away to predict Hell in a Cell. The full card's not really out yet.
That's next week.
Yes,
we'll predict that next week for you.
So yeah, it's a little too far out to predict that this week. So we're gonna do some ROH and TNA Ring of Honor. They had a pay-per-view recently, All-Star Extravaganza 8, and it was a pretty good pay-per-view. Ring of Honor always puts on a pretty good show, I'd have to say.
Yeah.
Definitely the top indie promotion in America, right? I would have to say.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, they do have a TV deal. They're almost basically a third contender to WWE, you could say.
Yeah, I agree with that, too.
Right, with TNA
Sinclair Broadcast Network is what their TV deal is. And then we'll get more into that when we talk about TNA, because I want to talk about, and I know you do too somewhat, about TNA, being up for sale possibly, some of these superstars going to WWE, going to Ring of Honor, going to, New Japan to continue their wrestling career. But, Ring of Honor always puts on great shows. I watch them every single week. They're on NBC around here. Good thing with DVR, because they're on at 1 o'clock in the morning, Saturday nights, Sunday morning. So I always watch them on Mondays or Tuesdays, during football season, because I watch football on Sundays and whatnot. So yeah, Ring of Honor always puts on good shows. First match for All-Star Extravaganza, I'll get us started. Bobby Fish, who was the ROH World Television Champion, defeated Donovan Dijak in a singles match for that championship. And it was about a 10-minute match, about the fifth longest match of the 8 matches, I'd say, because we also had a couple other singles matches that went about the same distance, and then you also had a couple tag team matches, and of course Adam Cole, baby, who is still currently the ROH World Champion, he defended his championship, but we'll get more here into that in a second.
Yeah, a triple threat also near the top of the show. Silas Young defeated Evil and Will Ferreira in a triple threat match, and you told me that he's going to get a future opportunity at Adam Cole's title here.
Yes, it's actually this weekend. I'm going to look it up what it's called right now because it's bugging me.
All right.
So
I'll continue on.
Keep continuing on, and I'll get back to you with what the event this weekend is called.
All right.
If I can find it here on the good old internet.
All right.
So yeah, just continue there.
Yeah. Oddball tag team, I would say. Colt Cabana and Dalton Castle won a number one contendership for the ROH World Tag Team titles in a 4-way against the All Night Express, Keith Lee and Shane Taylor, and War Machine. So an oddball tag team there going after the World Tag Team Championship. Dragon League defeated Kamatachi in a singles match. Also, Kyle O'Reilly defeated Hangman Page in a singles match as well. And then we had a first round match for the ROH World 6-Man Tag Team Championship. And the first round match, Kushida, ACH, and Jay White defeated the Briscoe brothers and Toru Yano in the first round match there. So they're on their way into that tournament. Jay Lethal, former ROH champion and television champion, he defeated Tetsuya Naito in a singles match. So he's back on the right track after losing his titles there. And then, you mentioned it, Adam Cole. He defended his ROH championship against Michael Elgin in a one-on-one match. And then we had the main event, which was a tag team match. Not just any tag team match. It was a triple threat tag team match for the tag team championships. It was Ladder War 6, which is basically just a ladder match, TLC match, whatever you want to call it, because, anything goes in a ladder match. There's no distinction between TLC and a regular ladder match, because, you can do anything in either. So, either way, and the team that won this one is the team that Cabana and Castle will have an opportunity against here. It was the Young Bucks, and they defeated the Addiction, who are Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, and the Motor City Machine Guns of Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin in Ladder War 6. In a very spot-filled match, it's the Young Bucks. They always have a really big spotty match all the time. Lots of amazing spots throughout the match. I won't get into all of them now. I will say Christopher Daniels, at his age, taking a lot of probably the biggest spots of the night. He got back body dropped off the top of the ladder by Nick Jackson onto another ladder, by the way. He also went through multiple tables, got hit with lots of ladders, also got super kicked into a guardrail that was a guardrail table, which was 2 guardrails and then another guardrail on top to form just an all guardrail table. It was kind of crazy. He was bleeding all over the place. And then Frankie Kazarian, his tag team partner, took an indie taker from the Young Bucks through a table. And from Nick, he jumped off the top of the ladder through the table to give him the indie taker. Ridiculous. Totally ridiculous match. But the Young Bucks win the ROH Tag Team Championships. And now they hold 3 different tag team championships through 3 different promotions now. As they're the ROH Tag Team Champions, the PWG Tag Team Champions, and the New Japan Tag Team. And I forget the acronym for some reason. Either way, but 3 different titles, and they're the only team to do this, held all 3 of these titles at the same time, and they've done it twice. So, it's only a matter of time before they're in WWE. I know that. I think they've been on record saying that they're not totally for that. They're making great money as it is because they are at the top of pretty much any promotion that they're at because they're just such a good tag team. They're just draw instant money for the most part. But either way, a great tag team there. Now they're the ROH Tag Champions. So
Yeah, okay, I found it on the internet there. Doing some research here while we were recording. Last weekend, Ring of Honor had Glory by Honor, and it was a 2-night event. Saw Adam Cole in tag team matches both nights. Night 1 was Friday night, and then night 2 was last Saturday night. And then this week, it's Road to Final Battle. It's going to be in Lakeland, Florida. Friday night and Saturday night. Saturday night, October 22nd, he will be defending his ROH World Championship against Silas Young, right. As I said. So, yeah, just wanted to make sure we were right there. Also, on this card, you're going to have The Addiction versus Colt Cabana and Dalton Castle, Kamikaze versus Jay Lethal, Hangman Page versus Mark Briscoe, one half of the Briscoe brothers, and Kyle O'Reilly versus Donovan Dijak. So be sure to buy this ROH pay-per-view. Well, actually, don't buy this one because it's going to be on regular TV eventually. But buy Ring of Honor pay-per-views whenever they have an actual pay-per-view, because this is like I don't know what you want to call it, Corey. It's like a fraction of a pay-per-view, I guess you could say, because eventually it's going to be on TV, as I said. So, because Ring of Honor, as I've said, and as you said, they always put on great shows. A lot of current WWE stars and some former WWE stars have made their way up through the independent circuit, especially through Ring of Honor. So, be sure to check them out if you haven't, and we'll be sure to be bringing you more coverage of that, whenever that time comes. And then going back to TNA as well, they're on Pop TV, which is TV Guide channel. Changed names in the past couple years. Ring of Honor is with Sinclair Broadcasting Network. They're supposedly in talks with TNA to buy them, as was WWE in the past couple weeks. I don't know. Did you want to talk about that now, or did you want to talk about that after we give these folks the results of
we're talking about it now, so
at
why
TNA
not?
Bound for Glory.
We're talking about it now,
All right. Well, TNA's been in some trouble, don't you think?
Yeah, they definitely have been. They haven't been putting out the best product. They have in recent weeks now and months even. They're starting to put out more of a better product, I would have to say.
Yeah.
But before that, they were putting out some not really good product, I'd have to say. It wasn't very good. It was, I don't know what to call it exactly, and I can't really pinpoint it, but they brought in a lot of guys, to help bring it out. One guy who's leading the charge is, of course, Broken Matt Hardy with his character, just an outrageous character, and he commits to it, which is another thing that kind of adds to it. He's one of the few guys that actually commits to a character. There are a lot of independent guys that I've seen on the independent scene, especially PWG I've seen in TNA now, like Trevor Lee, who's constantly in the X Division title run. Also Andrew Everett, who's been tagging with him in a little faction, I think it is. Also DJZ, but he's been there for a while now. He's also in the independent scene, PWG specifically. Yeah. But yeah, a lot of guys.
Going back to Trevor Lee and Andrew Everett there, they train with Hardy Brothers.
Because they're both from South Carolina?
In Cameron, North Carolina. Which is they're still getting over, flooding from Hurricane Matthew 2 weeks ago. But anyways, yeah, Ring of Honor, yeah. TNA, they're not the same as what they used to be.
When they were first out in the early 2000s and stuff, they were competing with TNA because they had a bunch of...
With WWE.
They were with WWE.
We're talking about too much wrestling. Sorry.
They were competing with them because they had all these guys from like ROH and stuff coming in.
Yeah.
CM Punk first debuted in TNA.
Yeah.
AJ Styles, of course, who's now big in WWE now, pretty much. He got his start in TNA. He was Mr. TNA for crying out loud. Samoa Joe, too, so... All of these guys that are in WWE.
Styles was in WCW, though, too, at the end.
Yeah.
And then he got a WWE tryout, but they never signed him. And that's what Vince McMahon always says. He regrets. He wish he would have signed Styles back in 2002, along with, John Cena, Batista, Randy Orton, and Brock Lesnar. So,
TNA at that time was kind of like the place where independent guys went before WWE even. They were basically, they were kind of like the ROH of today, almost.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They put on great matches, had a lot of great matches, and they had a bunch of independent guys in there.
And TNA has guys now that were just in WWE. Going
in the
past year, or TNA guys going to WWE. As it's normally,
or even guys that were in WWE for a little bit.
Yes.
Maybe not in the past year, but have been before.
Yeah.
And now are there, of course.
Names like Cody Rhodes.
Going
by Cody now, because WWE owns the rights to Cody Rhodes.
Lashley, of course.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley.
Of course, the Hardy Brothers.
Hardy Boys. Who else?
Aaron Rex.
Damian Sandow, Mizdow.
EC3. He was
a jobber in WWE.
He was on NXT when it was a reality show kind of thing.
Yeah, he was a bodyguard as well.
Yeah. Well, pretty much everyone that's in WWE has been a bodyguard. Drew Galloway.
You can't forget about him.
He was the chosen one.
Josh Matthews held the announcers for TNA or former WWE guys. Elijah Burke. He was in ECW when WWE had ECW brought back. He goes by the Pope now in TNA. I think it's pretty funny. I think Corey knows why. I'm not going to say it.
Yeah.
But,
Gail Kim and Maria were both in WWE at one point. Maria wasn't a wrestler, though. She was with Santino, I think it was.
Yeah.
But Gail Kim was. She was a women's champion in WWE at one point.
And she just became a TNA Hall of Famer.
Yes.
At Bound for Glory. And but then WWE, as I said too, has former TNA guys.
We kind of already went through that a little bit. Bobby Roode now as well. Eric Young too.
Yeah,
he just
Sanity
again. No,
re-debuted, I guess you could call it. Yeah,
Sanity.
Yeah. NXT's on tonight too, by the way, folks. I got all caught up on that. I was behind on it. Who else is there?
I mean, there's been so many guys.
There's so many. There's too many to count. As I said, Gail Kim got inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame at Bound for Glory. Bound for Glory was on October 2nd, in Orlando, Florida, at the Impact Zone, as they like to call it, and had a lot of championship matches. 6 of the 7 matches here were for championships. Yeah, the one singles match was Moose against Mike Bennett. And he defeated Mike Bennett, and then it saw the debut of Cody Rhodes, going by Cody now, because as I said, WWE owns the rights to that name. He is one son of the late great Dusty Rhodes. Dustin Runnels, Goldust, who is still in WWE, is the other son of Dusty Rhodes. And then Brandy Rhodes, who went by Eden Styles in WWE, as a ring announcer, is wrestling in TNA now. So Mike Bennett's going at with Cody Rhodes. Moose and EC3 are going at now. If you watch, TNA every single week, they've had two what do you want to call it? Shows since Bound for Glory. They'll have their third one tomorrow, and then with TNA too, they always tape it about a month to 2 months in advance, as NXT does. NXT's slowed down. They tape it like maybe a month ahead of time. So yeah, TNA tapes, so you can check out get on the internet and check out some spoilers if you can find them, or you can just listen to us, or you can tweet at us and ask us if we know. But then Moose too, he played in the NFL for about 6-7 years. Played for the Falcons, played for the Patriots. He was an offensive tackle. That's why if you watch TNA, his shirt, he has number 72 on the back. That was his football number. He was pretty good in football, but then he ended up getting cut. I believe he played for the Washington Redskins too there for a little bit. But then he got cut by the Patriots, and his career was pretty much over after that. So he decided to get into the wrestling business, and it's worked out for him. He's another Ring of Honor guy that is working his way up through other promotions. He just debuted in TNA over the summer, and we'll have to see if he goes to WWE. If TNA gets sold, who knows? Because TNA's, as I said, they're in some trouble. They're in debt. They haven't paid their superstars in about I don't know how long it is. It's been a while, and these superstars are willing to walk, and become free agents and sign with other promotions. So Ring of Honor might get some of these guys back. Some of these guys might go to New Japan. Hell, some of these guys might go to WWE and then be in NXT. But moving on now, Bound for Glory. What match you want to talk about next, Corey?
Let's go to the X Division.
X Division? Sounds good
Sure.
to me.
DJZ defended his title against Trevor Lee, who I mentioned a bit ago. I mean, let's go through this kind of quickly, I guess.
Yeah.
There's not too much to talk about, I would say. I didn't personally watch Bound for Glory like you did.
I didn't either. I didn't watch Bound for Glory, but I watch TNA every week.
Yeah, okay.
So I know what happened.
I only
because they
watched the
obviously
one
give recaps.
I watched the one match, which is probably the match that almost everyone's probably seen. If that doesn't really watch TNA, but either way, Eli Drake, he won a battle royal in the Bound for Gold, they're calling it, gauntlet match.
Yeah.
For a future shot at the TNA World Championship.
Yeah, they just came up with a cheesy name, I guess you could say. It's a number one contenders match, is what it was. And he beat Jesse Goddard, as you said.
The last person that he beat, I guess.
Going back to the X Division. The X Division, I think we've talked about this before. It's like the cruiserweight.
It is.
Division.
It features a bunch of guys that are cruiserweight.
As what WCW had, and then WWE's bringing it back. Back now to compete with TNA, because TNA's had the X Division since they started in 2002. When Jeff and Karen Jarrett started that company, along with Jerry Jarrett, his father. So WWE's trying to compete with that now, and I believe they're winning because TNA has, as you said, Trevor Lee, DJZ. Who was the other guy?
Andrew Everett.
Yeah, Andrew Everett. But then WWE has... Yeah, but who'd you say?
I said a couple other guys.
Yeah, a couple other guys, okay. But WWE has Brian Kendrick, who's been in WWE before. Cedric Alexander, probably the hottest name on the independent circuit. And he's wrestling in NXT now, too. And a lot of other guys, too. We don't want to go on. As you said, you want to... go through this pretty fast because there's really not a whole lot to talk about, but me, I like to talk. The Impact Grand Championship. So Eli Drake's going to be getting a title shot for winning that gauntlet match. But on the Impact Grand Championship, it's a new championship in TNA. They got rid of the King of the Mountain Championship and replaced it with the Impact Grand Championship. And Aaron Rex, Damian Sandow in WWE. Aaron Stevens is his real name. Built out of Louisville, Kentucky. Beat Eddie Edwards, one half of the Wolves, who are a great tag team. And then we'll get more here about Eddie Edwards here in a second because he beat Lashley in a match. But the Impact Grand Championship replaced the King of the Mountain Championship. And how the matches for the Impact Grand Championship go, they're 3 rounds, 3 minutes around, and it's like a regular wrestling match, like a collegiate wrestling match or a high school wrestling match, but you don't wrestle like that. It's just like the time, you get judged by that and how you wrestle. Format, like takedowns and punches, kicks, and so on and so forth. But so it's a little different. It's fun to watch. This was the second longest match of the night, behind the Great War for the TNA Tag Team World Championships between the Hardys and the K, which we'll get to here now. So yeah, Aaron Rex defeated Eddie Edwards for the Impact Grand Championship. We'll get more here into Eddie Edwards here in a second. You want to talk about the Hardys? Because I know how much you love them and you talk about them all the time.
I don't talk about them all the time.
Well,
but
sometimes you do.
The one thing I've been talking about for TNA.
Because Botchamania is funny with them.
That's the reason why I've been watching all of them. All this, I've watched all the deletions and stuff, whatever. But Broken Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy, or Brother Nero, as he's officially called.
And he's only been doing Broken Matt Hardy since May.
Yes.
June timeline there.
One of the most over wrestlers in the world right now.
Yeah.
With that character. They defeated Kay, who's, if you don't know, Abyss and Crazy Steve.
And Rosemary.
Yeah. They're a great tag team, I'll have to say that. They play the character really well. All of them. But either way, the Great War, which is basically just a no-holds-barred, falls count anywhere, anything goes match. They just gave it a fancy name because it's Broken Matt Hardy, basically. He coined the term. So, but not really a wrestling match, I would have to say. More of a brawl with just a lot of theatrics and callbacks to other stuff from like all the other the leader decay and stuff like that, whatever. All those things, because there's wrestling at the beginning, a little wrestling at the end, but all of it was kind of like a mashup of a bunch of fighting. Abyss and Matt Hardy were fighting the whole time, and then Crazy Steve and Jeff were fighting the entire time, and then they came back to the ring, and then they win because, well, Brother Nero officially hits a swanton through a couple tables on Crazy Steve to win. So
yeah, and then this was the third match of somewhat of this nature, because 2 matches were at the Hardy compound. The first one was between the Hardy brothers. Matt faced Jeff.
Yes.
And then they became a tag team again, and then they faced Decay. And then now this is culminating that, the Great War.
I guess you could say that, yeah.
And now I forget who it is, but there's a new tag team in TNA, and they're getting their title shot against the Hardys.
The Tribunal.
Yeah, that's who it was. Who were coached by what's his name? Al Snow, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that should be another fun one, because I'm sure Al Snow is going to get back into the swing of things here and coach them up some more to beat the Hardy brothers. Maybe at the Great War 2, if they want to call it that. Gail Kim, as I said, was inducted in the TNA Hall of Fame. TNA Hall of Fame has been around since 2010, I believe. Kurt Angle's in it. Gail Kim now. I think Jeff Jarrett's in it. I'm just going off the top of my head. I can't really remember. But she defeated Maria, who was the champion, after she defeated Allie. After Allie defeated Maria, going back a month or two there, and Mike Bennett. Mike Bennett's the husband of Maria. So, yeah, Gail Kim won the Knockouts Championship for the 6th time, I think it was. And then Lashley, as I said, as we both said, former WWE guy, he was in that WrestleMania 23 match with Umaga, and it was the Battle of the Billionaires. It was Vince McMahon against Donald Trump, and Donald Trump's been in the news lately, if you haven't heard, folks. If you haven't heard about it, you must be living underneath a rock. Especially for the past year and a half, because that's how long he's been running for president, for God's sakes. And the election's coming up here in a couple weeks, so we'll have to see if he's going to be our next president of the United States. But yeah, Lashley, and by the way, Lashley beat Umaga, and so I'd say Donald Trump has some good taste. You know, he had Lashley in that match, and then Vince got his head shaved. Can you imagine Donald Trump with no hair?
No.
No? Okay. But Lashley defeated EC3 in a no-holds-barred match, which Lashley got the pick on a previous episode of Impact. Hulk Hogan, I just remembered too, was in TNA there after WWE. And then that was funny because he always complained about it, but it was funny because remember when Hulk Hogan's sex tape came out, and then that's when he was in TNA, and the name of TNA was still Impact Wrestling, Total Non-Stop Action. So, and that's what they're still called, but it was just funny with Hogan and his sex tape and whatnot. But Lashley defeated EC3, coming back to this match, no holds barred match for that TNA World Heavyweight Championship. But then EC3, as I said, and Moose was in this storyline. Mike Bennett was too. These guys were tagging going up to this event. So Moose and EC3 are going out now. So Mike Bennett is with Cody, and then it leaves Lashley all by himself. But as I said too, Aaron Rex defeated Eddie Edwards, and Eddie Edwards ended up getting a title shot. Lashley picked him the couple days after Bound for Glory, and Eddie Edwards beat him. So Eddie Edwards is your new and current TNA World Heavyweight Champion, because Lashley has a MMA fight coming up. So he's going to be getting some time off from TNA. But he's still going to be on TV because, as I said, TNA's taped, a month or 2 months in advance. And that was Bound for Glory, folks. I don't know if you have anything else to say, Corey. We'll move on now.
Yeah, it's that time now. It's time to go into our NBA preview for this upcoming season, as the Cleveland Cavaliers, hard to believe, set out to defend their title from last season. And we're going to go through it like we have been for most of our previews. playoff teams, who we think is going to make it in each conference, and then also the championship, who's going to win the championship, who's going to be in that championship game there. So we'll get right to it. Out of the East, we'll start with the champion Cavaliers. I mean, there's not really much to say about them. I have them in the playoffs, of course.
I do as well.
Everyone will. I mean, they're the defending champs. They still have pretty much everyone from last season. I mean, not much to say about them.
Yeah, and they just re-signed J.R. Smith, too. Finally got that deal done after a long time, which should have been done over the summer after they won the title. But, they just re-signed J.R. Smith. Have pretty much everyone back, as you said. They did lose Mozgov to the Lakers. He signed a big deal with LA, but not really much of a.
He wasn't too integral. He wasn't integral. He wasn't that integral into the championship run, though. I don't think.
Not this year. The year before, he was good going. He was good in the playoffs, and then the Cavs lost in the finals to the Warriors. So, 2 years ago he was good in the playoffs. This year, not so much. I have the Cavs in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, obviously it's hard to go against them.
I think they'll be the number one seed.
Yeah, you did it differently than
I did. I did my predictions different than Corey. I have who I want to win the Atlantic, the Central, and the Southeast, and then for the West as well. Who's going to win the Pacific, the Southwest, and the Northwest, and then I have overall standings come playoff time 1 through 8 for both the East and the West, and then you can obviously tell who I have matched up in the playoffs. But we're not going to do that. We're going to do it a little different than what I had planned on. But it is what it is, and that's what makes us good. We got to be able to what do you want to call it, Corey? Work with each other and make things right, I guess you could say. So we're just going to give you the teams we have in the playoffs and then our finals prediction, I guess you could say. So yeah,
mine's in no particular order. I think I have them the way I have them. They're in divisions. The way I have them, I don't have the divisions written out, so I'm not 100% confident in which division's which exactly. But I do have them written out in their divisions.
If you say it, I'll probably know. So
all right.
But if not,
I'm sticking wherever the Cavs division is. So.
They're in the Central.
Central. So I have the Pacers also in
as
a team because they got Jeff Teague in the offseason to add to their already pretty good team. He's a step up from George Hill, who they traded away to get him. So they also have Paul George and Monte Ellis. They're both great on the offensive end. George is been getting just better and better each season, it seems like, and he is a all superstar, bona fide superstar, I'd say, and definitely one of the best players in the league. Also, they have a rising star in Miles Turner in his second year now, down low at the center spot. He was really good last season. Maybe he can continue that this season. And for me, this is a team to watch out for come playoff time.
The Pacers.
Yes, they play solid defense. They have a great offense now with Teague now. And Ellis and George, they're both really good on the offense, and I think Turner's really something. So
all right, well, I have the Pacers in the playoffs as well, but I have them as my 8 seed. Surprisingly, I don't think they'll be that 2 through 5 team seed wise. They'll sneak into the playoffs late, get that 8 seed, and face the Cavs in the first round. And I have the Cavs winning that series.
All right.
So the Cavs are in the second round already.
Okay. The third team from that same division, I have the Detroit Pistons coming out. And I thought last season that the Pistons are getting back to championship form that they had back in the early 2000s.
Van Gundy.
And even back into the 80s, early 90s. But they have a young talent.
What they call themselves?
What?
The Pistons back in the 80s and 90s.
The Bad Boys.
Yeah, the Bad Boys.
The Bad Boys of basketball. They have a young, talented starting 5.
Be sure to check out that 30-30 about them. It's pretty good.
Yeah, they have a really good starting 5, I think, with Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Marcus Morris, and Tobias Harris, as that's their starting 5 projected right now. Really solid young team that was really good last year at points, but then I think they fell short. I don't think they made the playoffs last year.
Who, the Pistons?
Yeah, I don't think they made it last year.
No, they were in the playoffs.
They were?
I'm pretty sure they lost to the Cavaliers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
In the first round.
But yeah, they're a team on the rise, I think. And they're another team for me to look out for come May and June, possibly.
I can agree with that, but I don't even have them in the playoffs. I do think they're a good team, but the teams I have in the playoffs, I think they'll pick up some wins over the Pistons throughout the regular season, and that will be the deciding factor come the start of playoff time, because then they'll have that head-to-head win, that tiebreaker over the Detroit Pistons. So I don't see the Pistons in the playoffs this season. But I agree, they do have a lot of talent.
All right. Here's a team that lost talent but gained some talent to go with it. The Chicago Bulls. Now,
I also have them in the playoffs.
The Chicago Bulls. I like the addition of D. Wade to the roster because he adds that little bit.
Who was from Chicago?
He was from Chicago. As that championship experience that will help them if they do make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Also, Jimmy Butler. He should flourish as the top guy in Chicago for sure.
There was rumors, that he wasn't even going to be in Chicago at the start of the season. There was rumors because Tom Thibodeau is the head coach up in Minnesota now, that they were going to trade Butler to Minnesota, and Chicago would be getting one of the top draft picks this past year in the draft. But that did not happen. Butler's still in Chicago, and then D. Wade ended up signing during free agency. So yeah, D. Wade, Jimmy Butler, maybe one of the best backcourts in basketball. Probably the East, I'd say. Maybe not basketball in general for the whole NBA, but the Bulls have a lot of talent.
And don't forget about Rajon Rondo, who came over as well.
Yes, they do.
He's going to be running
too.
that point. He's a great facilitator offense.
And he takes over for Derrick Rose, who was traded to the New York Knicks, surprisingly. And we broke that story here on Across the Goal Line for you back in July when it happened. And the Knicks, I'm going to say they replaced the Pistons in my predictions here because I believe in the East we have one or two teams that are different. So the Knicks are my team that are going to replace the Pistons in your prediction. So I have the Knicks in the playoffs over the Pistons is what I'm trying to say.
All right.
So going back to the Bulls though, Corey.
Yeah, the Bulls, the one thing I'm interested in seeing from them that kind of worries me is how they're going to do after losing both of their centers this offseason, Joakim Noah and Pau Gasol.
Yeah.
Now Robin Lopez is their center for the season right now. I'm not quite sure how they're going to be down low.
Robin Lopez.
Teams might be able to pick on him in that situation. It's just going to be one thing. They do have a great 1 through 3, but then 4 and 5 is a little bit iffy.
I don't know what to say about Robin Lopez. He doesn't compare to either of those guys that they lost, Noah and Gasol.
Yeah.
Noah's in New York now with the Knicks.
Gasol's in San Antonio.
And Gasol's in San Antonio replacing Tim Duncan, who retired after, however many seasons it was.
He's a guy I'm going to talk about some when I talk about the Spurs.
All right, we'll get into the West here in a while. I mean, I think this is going to take a little longer than what people normally think, but the Knicks too. Going back to the Knicks, as I said, I have them in the playoffs. I have them as the number 2 seed, and I'll have them play in the number 7 seed. Atlanta Hawks, who I don't know if you have.
I don't. So
that,
2 for 1 deal, right?
2, yeah, okay, 2. We'll talk about that real quick. The Hawks, they made the playoffs last year. Played the Celtics, and the Celtics beat them. Cleveland ended up beating Boston, and then Cleveland ended up getting the finals. But anyways, so that's all I'll say about the Hawks. They do have Dwight Howard now. He's going back to his hometown. God rest my soul. I don't really give 2 shits about Dwight Howard. And I hope all these Atlanta people, down in Georgia, they're going to be happy. They think they're going to win the NBA title this year because they got Dwight Howard. He sucks, folks. He's one of the biggest busts in NBA history. He's in it for the money. But the New York Knicks, they got Derrick Rose and Phil Jackson. I mean, Phil Jackson. They do have Phil Jackson. And I was going to get into Phil Jackson here in a second. That's why I said it. That's my fault. And Joakim Noah. 2 former Chicago Bull players. Phil Jackson, former coach of the Chicago Bulls back in the 90s when they had Michael Jackson.
Michael Jordan.
Good God.
Can't get off Phil
I can't
Jackson.
talk. I'm getting my names messed up. I'm saying them too soon. I'm saying them too late. What the hell, Luke? Come on, man. Anyways, yeah. Michael Jackson's been dead since 2009. He was a former pop singer. But yeah, Phil Jackson was the head coach. Let's see if I don't do it twice. Phil Jackson was the head coach of the Chicago Bulls when they had Michael Jordan back in the 90s and won 6 NBA championships. And then Phil Jackson ended up going to L.A. and he won, 5 more?
I think it was 5.
So he has 11 total championship rings as a coach, and then he won one as a player too. So I believe he has 12 NBA championship rings. So 10 on his hands and then 2 on his feet whenever he gets buried. And that's what I do. But yeah, the Knicks, with that, I think that with the connection with Jackson and the Bulls is why they were able to sign. I mean, going back 20 years, but I think that's the reason why they were able to sign Derrick Rose and Noah, to some extent, I guess you could say. So yeah, what were you even talking about?
I wasn't. You were just talking about the Knicks and Hawks. I will say about the Knicks. I'm going to go to talk about the Knicks.
But you were talking. What team were you talking about?
I wasn't. No, we were just talking about the Hawks and Knicks with you right now.
Well, because you were talking about the Pistons. Because I said the Knicks will replace the Pistons.
Well, we were talking about the Bulls, and then.
Well, yeah. Okay. It all leads together. It all comes together.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Knicks because I want to talk about these two teams that you have and that I don't.
Okay.
And why I don't have. Well, the Knicks, they were terrible last season anyway.
They were. I agree.
Rose and Noah. Rose is definitely not the same player he was the MVP season. He never probably will be again. He's not really that much of an addition.
Blew his knee out how many times?
He's not that big of an addition for New York. Noah's not either. He's not a scorer. He's more of a defender than anything. He wasn't that great last season anyway. You got an aging Carmelo Anthony who's he's still good. Don't get me wrong, but it's Kristaps Porzingis' team, I think, and he's in his second year. I'm not quite sure how they're gonna do. I mean, it's a big jump for them, especially for you, second seed in the East.
Well, I have them winning the Atlantic is the thing.
Oh yeah, of course.
I could see Boston winning the Atlantic though too. I have them, coming in as the 4 seed. So Boston could be the 2 seed. Boston could be the 4 seed. I have them as a 4 seed because I have the Knicks winning. So yeah, go on.
And as for the Hawks, I think they lost too many guys. They lost Horford and Teague to the offseason. And their team's still good. Dennis Schroeder should be able to pick up where Teague left off. He is capable as a point guard. Down low, Dwight Howard and Thiago Splitter, I guess, is going to be their 2 centers. It will be. I'm not quite sure how that's going to go. You already talked about Dwight being bad.
Yeah.
Splitter's serviceable.
He's been on, this is his 4th team now in as many years.
Yeah. I think it is,
It seems like.
Pretty much.
Because he played for the Magic. Maybe not in as many years, but it's his 4th team in his career. Played for the Magic there. Played for the Lakers. Played for the Rockets. Now he's playing in Atlanta in his hometown. Hopefully his last team. Hopefully he retires after this year. I just hate him.
Yeah, but I think we lost too many guys. They're a team that I have just barely missing out on the playoffs. They're like my 9, you could say. 9 or 10, maybe. They're a team that I was going between 2 different teams, and I chose the one over the Hawks. So, either way.
Okay, yeah, as I said, I have the Hawks at my 7 seed, so both them and the Pacers will sneak in. So there's going to be other teams, too, as maybe the Pistons and the... who's the other team you have that I don't?
It's the last team I have down. It's the Hornets.
Yeah, the Hornets. That they'll be in contention for that 7 or 8 seed. And going back to the next 2, Porzingis, he's just unreal. I would throw this in there. He's just unreal. Good player. He's only in his 2nd season now.
2nd season now.
So be on the lookout for Porzingis. Maybe he wins an MVP in the next 5 to 10 years.
All right, moving through here, we got 2 more from Luke. Another team that we obviously have the same. It's the Toronto Raptors, the 2 seed from last season. They still have that dynamic duo of DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. They lost Bismack Biyombo, but I like Jonas Valanciunas more than him as a total player, I guess, both ways. I like him more anyway. He's better offensively than Biyombo. He's just as good defensively. I think he adds more to their team anyway. Biyombo just got hot during the playoffs, and that's why he got a big deal to go to Orlando over the offseason. That's a team that I think could be good this year that I didn't think about initially. The Magic, they have a lot of young talent as well. But either way, DeMar Carroll's also a good defending option. When they reach the playoffs, he might be able to shut down a guy or two. Maybe not LeBron, let's just say. For example, he won't be able to stop LeBron at all. No one really can. There's a few guys that can slow him down a bit. I would say Paul George is a guy that can, and definitely Kawhi Leonard is another one that can do it. But not too many. But DeMar Carroll helps him in the playoffs as a defender more than anything. But the Raptors are still a solid team from last season. They're in the playoffs.
I also have them in the playoffs, as you said. I have them as my 5 seed. So I have them playing a 4 seed Boston Celtics. As I said, Boston could be the 2, could be the 4. So Toronto would be playing at Boston, and then I have Boston winning that series. So then I have Boston playing at New York in the second round because I have New York beating Atlanta. So my second round matchups in the East will be Chicago at Cleveland. Could you talk about the Bulls there some? And then Boston at New York. And then there's one other team that we both, I think, agree on.
Two more. Well, I haven't gotten to the Celtics yet.
Well,
I mean, I do have the Celtics. Okay. You've talked about the Celtics a couple times now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they're a team that has lots of young talent themselves. They had a lot of draft picks this past season, so they have a lot of young talent.
Yes, they did. They had
waiting right now.
6 or 7 draft picks in the draft this past year, which is only 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Which is...
I mean, their team's still good, and they added Horford in free agency.
And they're young. They're real young. And Brad Stevens, the head coach. And I'm not saying this because, I'm a Celtics fan. It's all true. They're real young. Stevens as a head coach. Former Butler Bulldog head coach in college basketball. Got Butler, to the promised land. Went to the Final Four, 2 times in 3 years, 2 times in 4 years, maybe 3 times in 4 years. I don't even remember because it was so many times. And then the Celtics job opened up, and he made the jump from college basketball to the NBA, and it's worked out for him. Football is different than basketball. Normally, if you jump from college football to the NFL, it doesn't really work out. Look at Nick Saban. He went from LSU to Miami Dolphins, and he wasn't even there, that long. And then he went to the Alabama Crimson Tide, and he's been there ever since. And he's won 3 national championships in 9 years. And then Bobby Petrino is another one. He went from Louisville to the Atlanta Falcons, didn't even last the season, and then went to Arkansas, and then he had trouble in Arkansas. But we'll get more in college football here in a minute. I like to over exaggerate. Have my what do you call them, Corey? My spells, I guess you could say, not dry spell, but whatever.
Spells.
Yeah, spells. I guess you could say
spell in general.
Yeah. Celtics. I really wouldn't be surprised if they go to the finals this year. I obviously picked them to go to the finals, or no, you did last year when we first started. I just remembered that. They do have a lot of talent, as you said, and then adding Horford, I think it puts them over the top, and I wouldn't be surprised if they could beat Cleveland to go to the finals and then play whoever out of the West when that time comes, end of May, June.
Yeah, I just want to finish
2017.
I want to finish this off saying that.
Okay.
I had Brad Stevens as the coach of the year last year. Honestly, in my opinion, I thought Brad Stevens was the coach of the year last year. The only reason Kerr won it was because of the record of the Warriors.
Well, yeah, and how Steve Kerr didn't even coach half the year.
Exactly.
Luke Walton did, and now he's the head coach of the LA Lakers.
Yeah, so.
And I saw a story about that with Walton, and when he was a player for the Lakers, he came to practice hungover, and Kobe gave it to him bad, and he told all the other players, "You're not practicing today. Luke Walton's playing me in practice, 1-on-1 the whole damn time," and Kobe beat him 100-0. I think it was. He was saying he might have been over exaggerating there, but because he was hungover at the time, so I don't think he would really remember some of that. But yeah, finish what you're saying about Celtics.
I did. That's what I wanted to finish on.
Okay.
So, yeah, moving on. The last team that we have in common here are the Wizards, Washington Wizards. It's hard to argue against John Wall and Bradley Beal at the 2 guard spots. They're fantastic, both of them are. And they also have a good post presence, I would say. Marcin Gortat and now Jan Mahimi coming in now. 2 good guys down low. They should be just fine. They've been basically consistent in the playoffs now for pretty much since John Wall and Bradley Beal came into the league, so...
Yeah, Wall's been there a tad bit longer than Bradley Beal. John Wall played at Kentucky, Beal at Florida, 2 SEC schools. Wall was one of John Calipari's first recruits at Kentucky. To start that, I guess you could call it a dynasty. They've only won one national championship, but John Calipari knows how to recruit. Just come tournament time, they're just a better team out there. Whatever round it may be. They'll never lose in the first round. Well, they did the one year. They didn't make they didn't make March Madness. They made the NIT, and they lost to Robert Morris at Robert Morris in Moon, Pennsylvania, where John Calipari is from. He also attended Clarion University up in Clarion. I don't even think we mentioned that when we talked about people from around here or whatnot, because he's a coach. We don't think about coaches. We always thought about the players. But Kentucky, they always get tons of talent, and they always seem to win. But there's always that one team that's always better than them. Come bracket time in March. So yeah, John Wall, really the face of the Wizards, I think.
Yeah.
And who's their head coach? What's his name?
It's now Scott Brooks.
Oklahoma City, yeah, exactly. Scott Brooks. Thank you. Can't remember what his name was. And this could have been a destination for Kevin Durant. If Kevin Durant came to Washington, would you have Washington as the favorite to win the East over Cleveland?
No.
No, you still want it? Because then you'd have a big three. You'd have John Wall, Bradley Beal, and then Kevin Durant over Cleveland's big three, and LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love.
I mean,
it
would be a really good matchup. Definitely, I would have to say.
It'd be different for the East too.
It definitely would be different in the East.
It wouldn't be your Miami.
But the thing is, you have to have that adjustment period at
Miami,
first.
Chicago, Cleveland, Chicago.
I would say that the next year would have been the year I would have been more for it, because you have to have that adjustment period.
You do.
Of them getting their chemistry up. That happens during the season, sure, but we saw it the first year with the Big Three. They lost in the finals. So
yeah.
I mean, it takes a little bit to get used to.
That really didn't pan out. They did win 2 titles, but they lost 2 of them as well, so they're 500 down in Miami when LeBron and Wade and Bosh all went down to South Beach. And D. Wade actually said recently that they almost signed with Chicago, those 3 guys, to form the Big Three in Chicago instead of Miami. But really, if they would have, people would be comparing LeBron to Michael even more, because they both played for the Bulls then. And I don't think LeBron would have wanted that. So I think that's why, they ended up going to Miami in the long run and, joining D. Wade down there, who was playing for them at the time. Now he's in Chicago now, by himself with Rondo and Jimmy Butler, as we said a little bit ago.
The final team I have in that you don't, I already said, the Hornets, the Charlotte Hornets. They were in it last year. They looked pretty good last year, I have to say. They aren't the flashiest team on paper, I will say. They have a good conglomeration of talent, though, that altogether will make them good in the end, I think. Kemba Walker, I think, and Nick Batum's still there, I do believe. I didn't see him on the depth chart, at least that I looked at, but he should still be there. He's one of those guys. They'll carry the team on their backs, honestly. This is a team where I'm not sure about their depth in general. I don't know how good their depth is.
They need Michael to come out of ownership and play for him.
I mean, they'll be good. This is a team I'm not 100% sure on. I could see maybe the Hawks possibly overtaking them for that spot. They're like my 8th seed, basically, you could say. The Hornets are.
All right.
With that, I guess we'll move on to the West now. And I'm starting at the top with the San Antonio Spurs, I guess. I did it just in kind of order by ESPN, I guess it was. Looking at the divisions, I think. So I have the San Antonio Spurs as not the top team in the West, I would have to say, just the first team I've written down.
Okay.
They're one of the best organizations ever, pretty much.
In the past 20 years, yeah.
Duncan, he did retire, but they got Pau Gasol to replace him, and he will definitely replace him tenfold on the offense this season.
Oh, for sure.
Well, he will contribute on defense, don't get me wrong. Maybe not to the extent Duncan did last year, but he still will be a viable option on the defensive end. He looked pretty great in Chicago all around. He was their best player last year in Chicago.
And they still have Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili.
Parker and Ginobili, they're still kicking. They'll do just fine. Kawhi, he's an outright star now. And he's a shutdown defender that makes a difference in a game sometimes.
And they also have who?
Also, you can't forget about LaMarcus Aldridge.
Exactly.
Down low in the post. He's a scoring option for them.
They have a big 4.
Yeah, I guess you could say. Yeah,
and then,
4 or 5 if you count Parker and Ginobili, because then it'd be Gasol, Kawhi, LaMarcus, and then Parker, Ginobili.
And then if Duncan wanted to retired, they'd have a big 5. But then say Duncan still retires, KD almost came to San Antonio too. They would still have a big 5. KD would have signed. San Antonio would be the clear-cut favorite to win the NBA championship then if that would happen. And I think they might be, a clear-cut, favorite to win now without, KD joining and still having a big 4 because they have all that experience. Especially with Parker and Ginobili.
Yeah.
But the one thing with the San Antonio Spurs, they're always favored come playoff time, if they make the playoffs, that is. Which they normally do.
They pretty much always make the playoffs.
Which they normally do, yeah.
They pretty much make the playoffs every year since Tim Duncan entered the league.
But then they always lose to like Dallas or, Houston or one of those other Texas teams, or the Thunder, who they lost to last year, on some crap calls, and game 2 and game 4 I believe it was. I believe the series went 6 games. So San Antonio got screwed last year in the playoffs is what I'm trying to say, and they had all that talent. It would have been nice if Duncan would have went out a champion, but it is what it is. He already had 5 of them already anyway. San Antonio, I also have them in the playoffs. I have them as the number 2 seed. I have Golden State as 1. Just because Golden State has Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Andre Iguodala, Draymond Green, who we were talking about before we started. Is he the problem in Golden State, or isn't he? It's hard to tell. I think he is, just because I think he cost them a couple games in the playoffs last year. They could have, swept the Thunder if he didn't have kicked Steven Adams in the groin. And then they would have been healthier come finals when they played the Cavs. That series, went 7 games? Yeah. And Cleveland won in San Francisco in Game 7. So I think Golden State would have been more healthy if Draymond wouldn't have been so much of a distraction. But I still think Golden State just has just a slight edge on talent over San Antonio. So that's why I have Golden State as 1 and San Antonio as 2.
I'll get the Warriors out of the way, because what's there to say? The only thing you need to say is Curry, Thompson, Durant, Green. That's all you need to say about them. Just those 4 guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they're always going to be good. That's all I'll say about them. So that kind of gets them out of the way right now. Another team I have in, I know you don't, it's the Houston Rockets. They're the second team I have listed here. The Houston
I don't
Rockets,
have them making the playoffs this year.
They'll be probably the best team offensively, right up there with the Warriors, but the worst defensively.
Yeah, and it's the NBA. No one plays defense in the NBA. That's why I hate watching it until playoff time. I'll watch college basketball before I watch the NBA. Hell, I'll watch football games from 15 years ago before I watch the NBA during the regular season. Literally, unless there's nothing else on TV. But yeah, Oklahoma City. Yeah, James Harden played for the Thunder. That's where I was thinking about that. Houston, I don't have them in the playoffs, as I said. Defense wins championships for any sport. And you got to be able to score more points than what you give up. So they can still put up points, but they're still giving up more, giving up more points. So that's why you said, maybe one of the worst in the league on defense. So, yeah, I agree with all that. And it could be one of the main reasons why I don't have them in the playoffs. But again, too, the Rockets, they're up one year, they're down the next. So that's what it seems like. So I don't have the Houston Rockets making the playoffs this year.
All right. I'm going to keep going here. You didn't let me finish exactly 100%.
Well, finish that.
Mike D'Antoni, new head coach. He brings an offensive mindedness, which doesn't help them defensively, which is like kind of adding on to that. Him being offensive minded doesn't really help them at all, because they're already good at offense. I said that when we first broke that on the show, that I didn't like the hire of Mike D'Antoni.
I remember that, yeah.
Harden's their only real player that can do anything, but he does enough.
And then they lost Dwight Howard, too, who I said I don't like.
That didn't really mean anything, though. That didn't really change anything.
Exactly, so, yeah.
Yeah.
They really don't have anybody else.
All right. Next, the third team from the same division, I do believe. The Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, they're in the Southwest along with San Antonio.
This is another team that added to their already good team this offseason, rather. Because they kept their star point guard, Mike Conley, obviously for quite a lot of money. Obviously a lot of money. They also picked
shitload of money.
They also picked up Chandler Parsons, who's a good player that will contribute handsomely to the entire offense on both ends, actually.
Yeah, he will.
They still have Zach Randolph and Mark Gasol, Pal's brother. down low to do their thing down low. They love the grit and grind, as they call it. Down
younger brother Powell also played for the Memphis Grizzlies before he played for the Lakers.
Yeah, but they're a good team, and they're another team that I have to look out for coming up this season.
I agree with you on that, Corey.
Their grit and grind, they do play some defense.
They do.
Against what you just said.
They do.
Yeah, not a lot of people play defense. Memphis does play some defense.
They do.
And they're a team that gave the Warriors some trouble last season.
They did. I agree with everything you just said there. And I also have them in the playoffs. I have them as my 7 seed. So I'm going to have them matched up against San Antonio Spurs in a rematch of what seems like the past 5 to 6 years, or the past 5 to 6 times both these teams have made the playoffs together in the same season. So San Antonio will play Memphis. I think they'll get the edge on them, though. I think Memphis's run will Memphis's luck will run out. So, yeah, Memphis is a good team. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if they do make it in the playoffs as a higher seed and then play, somebody like Oklahoma City or Dallas, who I think they could beat. As of right now, today, October 19th, October 20th, and which we'll upload tomorrow. So, a week before the season starts, too. The season starts next Tuesday, October 25th. We got 2 games next week on opening day. Is that what it is?
Well,
I know the Cavs play.
NBA? Yeah. I have no idea.
You have no idea? I caught you off guard there. That's my fault. Yeah,
it might be the Cavs playing.
I know the Cavs play somebody. I think they play the Knicks.
It might be the Knicks.
And then somebody plays out west.
They might be. I want to say the Clippers play. I don't know.
Anyways.
I can't remember from when we did our schedule.
Yeah. I have the Grizzlies as a 7 seed right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do, are 4, 5, 6 seed, and then they play, somebody like, as I said, Portland, Oklahoma City, or Dallas, which I think they could beat, come playoff time. But if they play San Antonio just has too much experience that San Antonio will beat them again, and they swept them in the first round, and I could see them sweeping them again. So moving on now.
Yeah.
Who's your next team in the playoffs, Corey?
The next team I have down, the Oklahoma City Thunder.
All right, I also have them. Your favorite team in the NBA.
Yeah, sure, they lost KD to the offseason, but they still have a good team. They got Victor Oladipo from the Magic on draft night, they also got Sabonis, that same trade there.
That is true.
Yeah, who I really like. I really like Domantas Sabonis. Adams and Kanter, the Stash brothers, down low. They're both fantastic as a unit and alone. Then there's the X Factor, Russell Westbrook, probably one of the best guards in the entire league.
And he just signed a new deal, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think.
Okay.
And who I think will win the MVP this year.
Really?
Yes, because we've seen it when Durant's not on the floor. He's a triple-double machine.
He is. You think he's going to silence all the critics and no one's going to remember Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City come the end of the season? I can see that storyline playing out too.
Yeah, I could, but I don't know. I don't think anyone's ever truly going to forget that, obviously.
Well, yeah. He could still come back if he wanted to. Look at LeBron.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before in here, so...
The thing I've been thinking about, going to LeBron, I feel like maybe he left just so the Cavaliers can get a bunch of talent, so he can come back.
That's what you said last week. Yeah.
Is that what I said exactly?
Yeah, I remember you saying that last week.
Was that on air or not?
I believe it was, but if it wasn't, it is now for this week.
That he just left Cleveland just so they can get a bunch of top picks.
I believe you said it last week. We'd have to go back and check the footage, check the archives.
Because they got 3 number 1 picks in 4 years or something.
Yeah, because I remember you said they got Anthony Bennett, got Kyrie, and they got what's his name, who they traded to
Wiggins.
Got Andrew Wiggins out of Kansas, who they ended up trading
they
to
got Kevin Love for, basically.
Minnesota for Kevin Love. So yeah, exactly, basically as you just said. So yeah.
So LeBron comes back to this good team, and of course, that's just kind of.
If KD wouldn't have left,
and they still pulled off this draft day trade, this would be
the thing was the draft was before he signed with Golden State. So say he still stays.
Yeah,
they got
great team.
Russell. I was going to say Russell Durant.
Russell
Westbrook, Kevin Durant, and then Victor Oladipo, who are really
well. The starting 5 will be
out of Indiana.
the starting five would be Roberson would be in the starting five.
Steven Adams as well.
So it would be
Out of Pitt.
Westbrook, Oladipo, KD if he's still there. Maybe he plays the 4, Kyle Singler at the 3 possibly.
I forgot about Singler.
And then Adams down low. But then look at that second lineup with you could have Sabonis, Cantor, and Oladipo on that second line. That second 5. That's very dangerous as a second unit.
It is, but I would go small and have Oladipo in that first lineup. Because you saw what he did at Indiana. You saw what he did with the Magic. And the Magic sucked when he was there.
Yeah.
The face of that franchise now is Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, but the depth chart, there's...
the
projected lineup is Roberson in because he's a defensive guy.
Yeah.
He plays defense more so. But why not have Oladipo, a guy who could be a star in his own right, play like a James Harden role when he was there?
6 man.
Come off the bench, put in a lot of points,
and then
do his
trade
thing.
him.
And then trade him, and then he becomes a star.
Because he doesn't want to negotiate a deal.
Yeah, but either way. Do you have anything else to say about the Thunder?
No, not really. I mean, I have the Mavericks also in the playoffs as a 5 seed.
All right, we'll go to the Mavericks.
So I have Dallas playing at Oklahoma City then in the playoffs.
Dallas. I'm not sure about that. Well, they got Bogut and Barnes.
I like Dallas. I like Mark Cuban, the owner.
Yeah.
I've talked about this before. He's a Big Ten grad out of Indiana as well. Going back to Oladipo there a second ago. And he's on Shark Tank, one of my favorite shows on TV. So Dallas has Dirk still. Just re-signed a deal.
Yeah, Dirk, Bogut, Barnes, who came over.
Yeah, they got Harrison Barnes.
Might
have paid a little too much for him, but
a little too much. Lost Parsons.
It is what it is.
Memphis.
It is all about money nowadays.
Harrison Barnes isn't no star player though, I don't think, and that's a reason why they paid. I think they paid too much. He's not exactly a star player.
Yeah,
we saw it in the playoffs last year. He was not making his open shots for crying out loud. So
I couldn't agree more. I agree with you.
I'm just not sure.
It's all true.
They're a team again, kind of like the Hawks from the East, that I think they're on the outside looking in for me.
All right. Well, as I said, I have them as a 5 seed, and as you asked me, do you have anything more to say about Thunder? Well, I have Dallas beating the Thunder in the playoffs. It's that 4-5 matchup. Both teams are going to be about with the same record. That seeding might be determined by 1 or 2 games. We'll have to see about that. But I have Dallas beating Oklahoma City. San Antonio over Memphis. And then going back to the East real quick before I forget. I have Cleveland over Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. But as I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Boston beats them. Going back to the West now. No, other than that, I don't have anything else to say about the Thunder.
All right, we'll move on to Portland now.
Yeah, who we both.
The Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah,
they picked up some guys that aren't exactly stars in their own right, but I think they'll contribute nicely to the team. They got Shabazz Napier, Festus Ezeli, and Evan Turner this offseason. They'll help contribute. They also, and of course, Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. They're the best that they got, but it's a very good 2. It's a very good 2 guys to have that are good enough to make the playoffs with.
Yeah, Evan Turner, one of 2 guys that left Boston during free agency. I just remembered. I thought it was the opposite. I thought Turner went to Toronto and Sellinger went to Portland. Sellinger went to Toronto and Turner went to Portland, obviously. And then add Napier too. In trade with Miami?
They got him from Miami.
Led UConn, to a national championship over Kentucky in 2014. Really, the second. What do you want to call it? He was the guy after Kemba.
He did exactly what Kemba did too.
He did too. He led
a team that wasn't exactly
11 seed. UConn was an 11 seed both times.
Not the best team going in, but got hot during the Big East tournament.
Yeah.
At least Kemba was. There wasn't the Big East when Napier did it. Yeah, they were.
No, it was the AAC.
Yeah, American Athletics. Yeah, but yeah, both.
Going back to Kemba though, the Big East when they played Syracuse in that 6 overtime game. I remember watching that. I was in what were we in 8th grade then?
something. I
It
don't.
was middle school. I knew that.
But yeah, similar things. They got hot during their conference championships, won them, and then went all the way to the championship just on one guy. I mean,
and who'd they beat? Kentucky. What did I say about Kentucky a little bit ago? They always recruit good, they always play good, and then they always lose to this one team that's notch better than they are come tournament time. And UConn was that team in 2014. So yeah, Napier and Portland now. I have them as the 3 seed. So I have them playing my 6 seed team. I don't think you have in the playoffs.
Probably not.
The T-Wolves.
The Timberwolves. All right. I can see where you're coming from.
I think they're on the rise.
I know. Yeah, this is a team that I think
they could be anywhere from 6, 7, 8. Hell, they might not even make playoffs. They might even come in at the 9 or 10 seed. The East and the West are both about the same this year, I'd say. With teams for later. Not rankings. I just lost my train of thought. What's it called? I just had brain freeze. Like the matchups, 8-1, the
seedings.
Yeah, the seedings, the rankings. That's what I was trying to think of. I don't know why I forgot that. But the West was normally you had another 4 to 5 teams competing for that 7 or 8 spot. Now the East is the same way. It seems like for this year. A lot of teams are on the rise, so I could see Minnesota anywhere from that 6 to 8 seed. So yeah, I have Minnesota at 6, playing Portland, and then I also have another upset in the playoffs. I have Minnesota beating Portland in the first round.
I can see where you're coming from Minnesota.
So I think they have a lot of young talent. Wiggins. Who else do they have?
They have Towns, Wiggins.
Yeah, Karl Anthony Towns.
Rubio's still decent at the point. He's a good facilitator of the ball. Tyus Jones. Also Chris Dunn they got in the draft.
Yeah.
He'll be good. And Tom Thibodeau is the next factor.
Yes.
As the coach.
Yes,
He'll bring a defensive mindedness to them that'll certainly help them moving forward. Because they have a lot of offensive talent. You get Tom Thibodeau in there, get a little bit more defensive to them, a little more defense into them. They could be a good team. My thing is, their youth will hurt them this season.
Yeah, they're just too. They're young, but they're too young.
Yeah, they're just too young. They have
if that makes any sense.
Like all their top players, Wiggins, Towns, and stuff, they're from 2 drafts now, like 2 years ago or something. So like they're only in their first couple of seasons, but they're still great. So this is a team that'll be good in a year or 2.
Yeah,
and they'll be in the playoffs.
And then, as I said, I had Minnesota beating Portland, so Minnesota would play Golden State then by seed, and then Dallas would play San Antonio, and then I have San Antonio and Golden State in the Western Conference Finals. But we'll save that here.
All right, so you had a 13 from the Southwest, is it? With Oklahoma? No, yeah, Southwest, isn't it?
What team is this?
With the Thunder and Blazers in the Timberwolves you had.
Thunder. Well, no, the Thunder are in the Southwest.
Okay, so I'm talking about the division. So my third team from the Southwest, your third team was the Minnesota Timberwolves. I have a third team from the Southwest as well. It's the Utah Jazz.
Okay.
I like their roster. They have
the Jazz are in the Northwest.
No, they're in the same division as the Thunder.
Are you
the Blazers, the Timberwolves, and the
Blazers are in the Northwest.
The Blazers are in the same division as the Thunder. The Thunder, they're in the Northwest then. Because
all right,
they're in the Northwest.
I'm pretty sure they're in the Southwest.
No, they're not.
All right,
it's the Thunder, Blazers,
Look
Jazz,
it up, folks. I'm pretty sure I'm right.
And Nuggets. Those are the 5 teams.
Get it, Corey, on Twitter. Tell me he's wrong.
I'm 100% right because they were in the Northwest because they were in the Seattle Supersonics, which is in the Northwest.
Well,
and then they moved to Oklahoma City. They had to stay in the division. It's the Northwest. Mm-hmm. I know the 5 teams in that division.
All right.
Thunder, Blazers, Jazz, Timberwolves, Nuggets.
Maybe you have to get at me on Twitter now and tell me I'm wrong. I don't know.
But yeah,
I really don't care.
I like the Jazz as a roster. They have a lot of talent. They have a starting 5 with guys like Derek Favors and Rudy Gobert down low. They're both really good. Favors is kind of their out-and-out star along with Gordie Hayward, who you talked about. You kind of did his Butler team, at least.
He almost hit the game-winning shot in 2010 when they played Duke in the national championship game in Indianapolis.
Yeah, so him and Favors are the 2 guys. Hayward, he's a good guy. Pretty much their star. Rodney Hood,
coached by Brad Stevens,
yes,
who coaches the Celtics, and then Duke as well. Past 2 times they've won the national championship in Indianapolis, 2015 and 2010.
Yeah, Gordy Hayward and Rodney Hood, they're a couple of good sharpshooters. And then George Hill running the point now, coming over from Indiana. He's very capable of doing so. I know I kind of hit on him a little bit when we talked about the Hawks when they lost Teague, and the Pacers as well, because that's who he used to play for. I said Teague was an upgrade, and he is, but he'll still fine. They have the pieces to make the playoffs, I think. They were close to doing it last year, I do believe. I'm just not sure about their depth, and that's the one thing that I'm kind of hanging on, whether or not. Because a team like the Timberwolves or the Mavericks could definitely come in over these guys, I think. We already went through the Warriors, so there's only one more team for me. I think there's only one more team for you as well.
Yes.
And these are both different. I have the Clippers.
Yeah, I have the Suns.
You have the Suns. I know the Suns have a young talent as well. They got a bunch of young
Bledsoe.
guys. Eric Bledsoe, they had...
He's not related to Drew Bledsoe either.
Brandon Knight still plays for them, right? Or did he move?
Knight's been all over. I can't even remember where he's
If
at.
he does, that's a good big two. They got a lot of guys in the draft.
I believe he is. I still don't think so.
They got a lot of guys in the draft. I know they got Bender.
Another Kentucky guy, Brandon Knight.
Yes. I think that same team with John Wall. Because it was like John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Brandon Knight, and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, I think it was.
Yeah, but then those other three guys left and Knight stayed for another year.
Yes.
So what? We have three teams that are different in the West.
Yes.
And two in the East.
Yes.
So I have the Suns and you have the Clippers.
Yes. You have the Timberwolves and I have the Jazz.
Okay.
And you have the Mavericks and I have the Rockets.
Okay, and then the East was...
The East is you have the Hawks while I have the Hornets, and then I have the Pistons while you have the Knicks.
Good.
So, yeah, so Suns, they have a lot of young talent as well. They're another team that could be on the rise here soon. But the Clippers, they have their own big three in their own right with Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. Also, they run the show, but I like the depth of this team. Their projected second line, as I see it right now, are Austin Rivers, Jamal Crawford, who's a consistent Sixth Man of the Year award winner.
Austin Rivers is the son of Doc Rivers,
who's the coach.
Clippers head coach.
Paul Pierce in his last season. Brandon Bass and Mo Spates coming over.
And then going back to Duke and the Celtics, too, Doc Rivers coached the Boston Celtics, and Austin Rivers played at Duke.
Okay. So that's their
fun fact for you.
That's their second five. Their other two guys on the starting five, other than Paul, Griffin, and Jordan, are Luke Richard, Mbah Moute, and J.J. Redick, who are both... Well, Redick's really good. I'm not sure about Mbah Moute, but they have a good, solid 10 guys on as the entire team. So I think they're pretty formidable. And if you ask me, this could be the Clippers' year.
Really?
And if you do ask me, it is the Clippers' year. Because my NBA Finals prediction is the Clippers winning the title over the Indiana Pacers.
That's a way, 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 way too early prediction, Corey. As I said, I had the Celtics and the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then the Cavaliers beating the Celtics. But as I said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Celtics do win that. And then in the West, I have San Antonio and Golden State, and then I have Golden State beating San Antonio. Just because I think the NBA does want, and I think you could agree with me on this, the NBA does want a third year in a row of the same matchup in the finals, same finals matchup, I should say. But some people don't. I don't, but it's just that, there's other good teams, but not good enough. So that's why I have Cleveland and Golden State in the finals again, and I have Golden State winning to get revenge on.
I know exactly what you're saying and everything.
So
anyone can see that the Warriors and Cavs are likely to meet again in the finals.
And
anyone.
Cha-ching, it's all about money too. So,
but you know me, I like to go against the grain.
You
I
do.
had the Celtics winning or in the finals last year at least, and they didn't even make it out of the first round. I like to go against the grain. So
hey,
and while I do think the NBA wants Cavaliers Warriors 3,
whatever floats your boat.
They want that third matchup, all that money from the marketing of this big matchup. So it feels like a WWE thing. One team
doesn't. I was going to say doesn't everything revolve around wrestling and WWE, but that wouldn't make any sense.
The NBA more so
doesn't
than
everything revolve around money though.
It does.
That's what I said. It's all about damn money.
And if you're in the NBA, it more than ever. The NBA is the biggest one of that. They're the biggest culprits of that type of thing.
For sure. And the NFL is not too far behind with Roger Goodell still as their commissioner.
they want this matchup. They're gonna get this matchup, and as I
It's
mentioned
just
in
because
WWE, it's like in WWE, one guy wins, the other guy wins, and they have the rubber match. This is the rubber match.
Yeah,
In the
it's
NBA.
true. That's true. And it's
may
just
the best team win.
It's just everybody hates LeBron. LeBron's the heel. If you want to involve wrestling terms now in the NBA, and then you have Tom Brady in the NFL. Everybody hates him because he cheated. So I'll leave that at that.
I mean, you already mentioned it.
It does. It does seem like it's everything. As I said, it involves money. It's all about money, and it just seems like it's a. I don't know what you want to call it, fraud. I want to go that. I want maybe not that far, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
I don't know how to describe it and how to say it.
Yeah, I mean, you already said it. Many others don't want to see it again. It's no one wants to see that because it's just a foregone conclusion. Like, it sucks when it's like this, when you're just like, oh, it's definitely probably going to be the Cavs and Warriors again. It just makes basketball not watchable because you're like, well, why do I care if we know who the final is going to be?
Exactly, and that's why I don't watch basketball until the finals as well, because it just doesn't interest me.
And you said it immediately after I made this prediction. I mean, these are two surprises. They're very early predictions, and they probably won't stand towards the end of the season. Even halfway through the season, I might be changing my mind about this. But two surprises, I mean, why not? I would love it if this was the finals matchup. It'd be refreshing, and it'd be new, and it'd even create a bigger storyline if the Clippers were to win, you guys being the new top dog in LA. So that'd be an interesting thing as well.
That would be very interesting.
I think that's where we're going to wrap it up for our NBA preview, and when we come back, it's going to be some football, so stay tuned.
Do you like hunting, fishing, or talking about the outdoors? If so, you need to check out Downriver Outdoors, an outdoors channel on YouTube that brings you some of the best footage of hunting and fishing from the backwoods of Central PA. They also tell some great outdoors stories. Be sure to subscribe to Downriver Outdoors on YouTube.